Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Creamsicle Chronicle podcast. My name is JT Olson. Fresh off his appearance on pewterreport.com, it is Garrett Ballard. Garrett, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. Had to take a brief, like 1 week just off because I work schedule, stuff like that. But happy to be back. Happy to be talking Bucs football. So
Sure. Taking a week off, except when you go on other people's podcasts. It's cool.
look, that one was a unique situation.
Yeah, for those who missed Thursday's episode of the Pewter Report podcast, it's featuring Garrett Ballard. Gave his opinion on the draft, which he hasn't even done on his own show yet. So
Hey, I didn't, I gave some good analysis there, but today's the real heavy hitters. So let's get it going.
all right. So the people got to hear some of my thoughts on this draft.
Yeah.
I liked it. I have very little complaints about it. I can't even say I have complaints. Just, didn't necessarily think that would be the direction they'd go with one of their pick. But I still won't complain about it because I think it's a good player.
Right.
So let's start at the top. Let's get your thoughts, Graham Barton.
Yeah, I mean, I think, looking back on it, there was obviously like, oh, Jackson Powers Johnson, oh, like Laiatu Latu. I think at the end of the day, it was always going to come down to Barton or Chop Robinson. That's kind of the way things were pointing for a while there. And, despite what we think, Jason Light has proven time and time again that he knows how to draft offensive linemen. And that's not to say that I dislike Graham Barton. I think he's a good player. I just think he needs a little bit of technical refinement, especially with his hands. They play wide a lot of the time, and he gives up his chest too frequently. But the athletic tools and the strength and his attitude all come together, and they form a really good prospect alongside the tape, because the tape is really good, like we've talked about before. Was it the direction I would have gone? No. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and second guess Jason Light and that scouting department and that front office, because I don't know if there's a better front office in terms of hits on offensive linemen over the course of his tenure. I mean, if we're thinking about it, Ali Marpet, Donovan Smith, Alex Kappa, who else? Tristan Wirfs, of course. Who else am I
Gadecki
Luke
now.
Gadecki.
Mock is coming along.
Mock, yep. Like, I don't think you could say that Jason Light has drafted a bad offensive lineman. Are they all starters? Maybe not. But are they good, reliable backups at worst? Yeah, I'd say so. Hainsey's the one that you can look at and be like, I don't know. But hey, one for how many? Like 9? That's pretty good. So Graham Barton, I like I said, I like the player. I would have personally gone with Johnny Newton, because I just think that guy's a freak. But I have no complaints on my end from the Graham Barton pick. I think it was a very, very good one, and it's very clear that that's who they wanted all along with how some of these videos were released after.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying these videos because I actually really like listening to Graham Barton talk.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the way he carries himself, just kind of the approach he takes to the game. You can tell he's just a very cerebral guy. Like, I could see him running for governor. That's just kind of like the era he has to him. Like, this guy's going to be a mayor of some town someday.
Sorry to cut you off. Finish.
Oh, yeah. No, that's it.
Oh, okay. The one that I liked was they asked him, like, where do you find your mean attitude on the field? And he was like, I don't know, you kind of just got to do it. Like, he's like, I'm not a mean guy, but that's how you got to play the position. So that's how I do it. I was like, hell yeah, that's sick. I was like, that's really cool. So I think you kind of see that with Tristan Wirfs a lot too.
Yeah, he likes the physicality of the game, and you can see that as a guy who just absolutely fires out as a run blocker. You would think he's a little bit more of a finesse player. He's super athletic, laid on his feet, not, the big bulking body type. But you can tell, like, time spent on the sled, he loves to pop people. He loves to drive people. He wants that contact. And, you don't have to be a mean guy or an angry guy to want that. It's just like, hey, this is kind of fun. I like pushing people.
Yeah, you don't got to be mean or angry. You got to be powerful, though. And he definitely is that. But I mean, you look at that power, you look at that ability to push people around, and then you match it with best ever athleticism from a center. It's hard to argue with it, truly. So, like I said, I think this is a very, very, very good. I think it's a safe pick as well, and that's not a bad thing. You can pick safe while also picking someone with a lot of upside. And I think this is
Yeah, and you and I have similar concerns, both in terms of his technique, specifically his hand placement. And I talked about it last week. Moving from left tackle to center is only gonna improve that. Because when you're on the outside, if you have short arms, you can get exposed. You fire those arms out and you try and get position, but you get out grappled. It's kind of like a boxer. You got to have that reach if you want to get that inside punch. You want to get that uppercut. Otherwise, you're the one getting punched. So moving inside, defensive tackles typically have shorter arms. I think that's only going to help him in terms of his hand placement and his punch at the initial, in the initial set in terms of his pass blocking. So, yes, shared concerns, absolutely. I think I'm probably a little lower on him than you were, but that's just I'm hypercritical about those kind of things when it comes to offensive line. But yeah, I think even with that concern, moving inside is only going to help him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean that inside transition, you see it for a lot of guys. They're like, yeah, he should move inside, and it's just if you have questions about how they play at tackle, right? Because moving inside mitigates those concerns, like you talked about. So, I mean, I think, looking at what he did, I mean, the big thing about tackle, especially in college, is are you fast enough? Are you quick enough? And Graham Barton answered that question with tens all around. So he has the athleticism to play tackle, but maybe not just the reach. So the move inside's natural for him, I think.
With that natural move, let's move a little bit beyond the initial analysis because we've talked about these players, in the lead up and in our evaluation. What are your thoughts about him starting day one? I mean, we know he's got to refine some technique things. Do you think he really is a plug and play starter and an upgrade over, Robert Hainsey or Ben Bredesen, whoever the left guard could be? Is he the best guy right away?
I think so. I mean, I don't think you take him round one if he's not. Jason Light also said it. I think it was they walked in and the social team for the Bucs walked in and asked him a couple of questions and said, "Do you see him as a starter?" And he didn't answer yes or no outright, but he said he was the 26th pick in the draft. That comes with some expectations. So he was obviously they're going to compete. We're going to see how it is, but I think at the end of the day, what Graham Barton will be able to do now, I think at least matches what Hainsey did last year. And that's at worst. I think the year one ceiling is much, much higher than the year, 3 or 4 ceiling for Hainsey at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I think at the very minimum, he's a starting center for this team next year. And then you kind of talk about asset movement, who do you play at left guard? Who do you what do you do with that? And then I think you just leave it open. You got Hainsey, maybe he can slide to left guard, maybe he's a bit more comfortable there because I think he played guard in college, correct? Or he played tackle in college.
Right tackle, yeah.
He played tackle, yeah. Maybe he's more comfortable at guard, who knows? But then you also got Bredesen, you got Sua Opeta, you got Elijah Klein, who they drafted in the 6th round, who we'll talk about in a bit. But I think you have your 2 tackles, right? And you have your right guard. You need to bridge the left and the right side somehow. And I think certified starting center is the best way to do that. So I think Barton's going to slot in as the starting center on day one this year, and it'll go well.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think seeing his athletic ability and his physicality in the running game, he's going to plug and play as an upgrade in that department. And that's what the Bucs really need. They need to get this running game going because, as well as Baker played last year for parts of the season, Baker is not a guy who can carry an offense to a championship. You got to surround him with a running game and as many weapons as possible. And, in a perfect situation, he's a game manager with the great situation around him, and then you can go places. But the Bucs weren't that team last year. They were part of that team with the defense and the weapons, but you really need every phase of the game clicking if you really want to be in that conversation as a potential contender.
Yeah, you said it well, and I don't want people to immediately think that JT's trashing Baker Mayfield right now. Baker Mayfield is not Patrick Mahomes or Justin Herbert or anyone else, Josh Allen, that can take over games with their talent, right? He needs, that's not a thing that is incorrect. He was very good last year. Could he be better? Yeah. Could the surrounding offense be better? Yeah. So I think improving the surrounding offense will inherently make Baker better. So that's how it works.
You know who Baker is to me, and I'm not comparing their exact style of play, but he's Jared Goff with attitude. Like, Jared Goff got washed
Stronger
out
arm,
of
much stronger of an arm too,
and definitely more mobile, better under pressure. Like I said, not comparing their play, but Jared Goff washed out of LA. They said, You've taken us as far as we can go. We don't want you. You're a throw-in for a rebuilding team. And that team, the Lions, they built an offensive line. They got good receivers. And all of a sudden, the Lions are in the NFC Championship game with Jared Goff, who washed out. You build it around him, he can take you places. But he's not going to elevate everyone else on the team. And that's okay.
It's a great way to put it.
Yep, there are different ways to do it. The Chiefs, they have Patrick Mahomes. He can take that offense anywhere. Doesn't matter who's around him, he will always elevate.
Yep.
There are other ways to do it, like the 49ers. Everything else is great, and they will take the quarterback, whoever that is, with them.
Yep. Anything else on Graham Barton?
No, the only thing I'll say about Graham Barton, and I talked a little bit about this, and it's totally, little bit random. Love 62. Love the number. It's an ugly number, and I want offensive linemen with ugly numbers.
I saw your tweet about that. That made me chuckle.
I'm for the grit and the grime of this class.
62 is rough. And is there a chance that those were just their college numbers on that graphic, or was it these are their numbers?
It's their numbers. 62 was his college number, but this is going to be his number at the Bucs. Yeah.
Okay. All right. There we go. There you have it. But that's kind of our synopsis on Graham Barton. I always just think back to the video of them sitting there when the Packers took Jordan Morgan. Like, love it when a plan comes together, and that's I think that's all the vouching we need to see from the Bucs front office on how they feel about this pick.
Did you catch Todd Bowles in that video?
Yeah, but
in the back, oh wow.
Yeah.
They did that.
And then Jason clapping like a seal.
You could tell that this is the guy they wanted. This was their circled, highlighted guy. Anyone else would have been a consolation.
Yeah, no, you're very correct. Very, very correct. But moving on to the second round pick, we have Chris Braswell, an edge rusher out of Alabama. JT, when was the last time the Bucs have taken a player from Bama? OJ Howard?
Yeah, that was probably it.
It's 2019. That's a long time. I don't know why. That was just something that came to my mind the other day.
Yeah, you'd think they'd get players from powerhouse programs like Alabama and Georgia pretty regularly, but
no, we dip into where did Ali Marpet go to school?
Hobart.
Yeah. Where'd Alex Kappa go to school?
Humboldt
State. Humboldt. Yeah. Dip into those.
We sprinkle around in Iowa or Central Michigan here and there.
Quite the few Washingtons, so that balances it out.
But up until recently, Washington wasn't that good.
Yeah, well, luckily for the Bucs, we got all their good players, it seems. So
it's true. Not a bad strategy.
No, definitely not. But yeah, Chris Braswell out of Alabama. This was someone that we talked about. I think it was my combine mock draft. I had him as their second round pick, and I think he fits what they want. It's not going to be like I understand if you're sitting there like, oh, first round edge rusher would have been so much better. Yeah, cool. They weren't available. I think for what you're getting from Chris Braswell is going to be great. I don't really care for the JTS comparisons because they could not be more different in their play styles. I get that it's just an edge rusher that the Bucs have drafted, but please do a little bit more research. I know people. This is not the flashy pick, not the flashy edge rusher with all the speed and the stats, but this is a gritty, hard-nosed, strong run defender who's going to be able to push an offensive tackle into the quarterback's lap rather than go around it and not do anything. This is a disruptor in the pocket by means of speed to power. He gets off the line of scrimmage fast, and he just jolts his hands right into the offensive lineman's chest and pushes him back. And that, in my opinion, is what the Bucs need on this defensive line. You kind of see it with Yaya Diaby. So just think about what his impact was to this defense last year. Insert Chris Braswell, who I think might be a little bit more polished, not super, because he still has a lot of work to do, but I don't think Yaya Diaby worked at a airport before going to Louisville. Like he was pretty fresh. So Chris Braswell is going to bring a very, very positive injection of talent into this defensive line, especially at the edge position.
Yeah, you said it's not like the flashy pick. I disagree. I think this is a super flashy, very sexy pick. Like,
I mean in terms of edge rusher talent, like skill wise, what they do.
I mean, compared to like Latu, yeah, sure.
Exactly.
Jared
Yeah.
Verse, sure.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I had Chris Braswell higher than Chop Robinson on my board.
I did too.
And then Marshawn Nealand, who went like I think the pick right before the Bucs.
Yeah.
I had Chris Braswell like 30 picks higher than Nealand. So
yeah, they by far got the best option for them right there.
Yeah, I think Braswell is the top candidate for that second tier of edge rushers. It was the top three with Verse and Turner and Latu. And after that, there was a gap. And then it was Chris Braswell.
Yep. I'm with you. I'm 100% with you.
And the thing I really love about the Braswell pick, high floor. I think he's a very high floor player. He's physical at the point of attack. He's going to be a plus run defender on the edge. He just sets it and lets people get in there and help make the tackle. And that's going to translate. Physicality, strength, athleticism.
Yep. That's really what it is. And is this guy going to be a 10 plus sack a year? Like maybe every now and then. I don't think it's going to come every single year. But this is going to be someone that is playing starter snaps and you are happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, if he can consistently float around that 8 mark, kind of similar, like
home run.
You compared him to Yaya, and that was my comp for him coming out was Yaya Diaby, big, physical, could use a little bit more polish.
Yeah,
I'll take that for sure. You got 8 on one side, 8 on another. Kalijah Cansey coming up the middle. The Bucs have a front going, and they are versatile, and they are incredibly athletic, and they are high upside. Cansey, Yaya, and Braswell, high floor, very high ceiling as well.
And I think one thing that definitely stood out to me when I was watching Braswell is he seems pretty comfortable when he drops into coverage, which is always needed in a Todd Bowles defense.
Yeah, he doesn't look like someone you'd want in coverage, just because he's so big and thick.
Yeah.
But listening to him talk at the combine, he's also very cerebral. He's got a lot of awareness to him. You can tell he's a sponge in the locker room, just soaking up everything. And he comes off as someone who's very coachable. So if Todd Bowles wants him to drop into coverage, I think he's going to do fairly well at that for his size.
I don't think the size is necessarily a deterrent. I mean, you see Vita Vea dropping back pretty consistently in games sometimes. So I don't think it matters to Todd Bowles as long as you can do your job, which, as fair. Can't really complain.
So let me ask you the same question I asked with Graham Barton. this going to be a day one starter, considering the room is full with Yaya, who you assume is one starter, but then it's JTS, you got Anthony Nelson, you got the new guy, who did we just sign?
Oh,
It just
Randy
totally
Gregory.
Randy Gregory, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
Like,
think
it's a full room.
it is a full room, and I don't think there's going to be one guy that starts every game. I think this is just going to be a full-fledged rotation, and you're going to see a lot of guys getting a lot of snaps.
So you think it's just going to be like there's not a real starter. It's going to be wave after wave.
So what I think is going to happen is I think Yaya Diaby is going to get the most snaps out of any edge rusher, followed by JTS and then Braswell. And I think, well, I'll say followed by JTS, and then Braswell and Randy Gregory and Anthony Johnson are going to be filling in every now and then. Because I think they picked this Braswell pick to eventually transition away from JTS. They declined his 5th-year option. So I think they unless he shows something, they're going to part ways at the end of the year. And I think they're hoping Braswell can step in after that. So I think he's going to naturally be third in that amount of snaps.
Yeah, because the one thing about JTS, he's really come along as a run defender. And I do think he's going to get reps in base sets. But I think Braswell's going to take some of those as well because he projects as a very good run defender.
Yeah, he does.
And I think, they're going to give more, pure pass rush opportunities to JTS. And same with Randy Gregory. I think he's just going to be a designated pass rusher more than anything.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I one guy that I was like, if they didn't pick up Randy Gregory, I felt like they would have targeted Mo Kamara out of Colorado State. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I think you're right. I think you're correct there.
Do you envision him putting his hand in the dirt? Any like a set of like Vita Vea, Kalijah Cansey, Chris Braswell, and then Yaya and say JTS, like a 5-man front like that? Because
he definitely has the size and power to do it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And Logan Hall has really left something to be desired. Could he eat into Logan snaps a little bit?
I'd say so. Actually, you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say right now, I think it's more likely that Yaya does that than Braswell.
Yeah, I mean, they're both big physical freak athletes. I mean, it gives you a lot of options, if nothing else.
Yeah. And here we got a comment saying, what about Watts and Ramirez? I don't really think either of them are going to take snaps from any of the guys that we were listing here. I mean, Jose Ramirez was a draft pick last year, but he spent the whole year on the practice squad. Watts, again, just another body in there. I think they're going to, again, just be on the practice squad. And I think the guys that we mentioned are going to be the main rotation.
I think Watts is really interesting because the staff spoke so highly of him. And he actually got some playing time last year, and he made the most of it. He made some splash plays when he was in there. But it's such a full room. I could see those guys kind of being on the same role, maybe a 6th guy, a practice squad guy, and maybe getting some play next year when that room kind of clears out with JTS moving on, Gregory moving on. I think Nelson's a free agent next year. So it's going to be Yaya, it's going to be Braswell, and then that's where you really want Watts or Ramirez to kind of progress with their development and take some of those snaps for some death rolls.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, at the end of the day, this year, it's just going to come down to space on the roster and how many edge rushers they really want to take, because they're not taking all those guys. I can tell you that.
I did like Ramirez in the draft last year. I thought he was a really nice value in the 6th round. I think he's got potential.
Yeah, I thought that was a good pick too. That's the one that I would like to see more from for sure. Because Watts, we've seen a bit.
Yeah, I'd be happy with both of them in a rotational role next season.
Yeah.
All right.
Any other notes on Braswell?
Another ugly number guy, grit and grime.
41 is a horrible, horrible edge rusher number.
Oh no, he had to change it because O'Keefe has 41.
Oh, you're right. What's his number now?
He's 43.
Oh, it's worse.
It is worse.
It is worse.
He's going full Troy Polamalu on us.
Yeah, that's a fun one. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Moving swiftly past that. The Bucs had 2 third-round picks, and with the first one, they picked Tyke Smith out of Georgia. Man, they are just hammering what they need, man. Truthfully, they very clearly love Zion McCollum and think he's going to have a big year. First of all, 2, Chris Isian's a nice player, but don't let good players take you from drafting ones you think might be an upgrade. Tyke Smith played over 1,000 snaps in college at nickel, and that is exactly what this defense needs. They need a nickel safety / cornerback, someone that can get there in the slot and feel comfortable. Smith, hard hitter, really violent guy in the backfield, smart player, was a crucial player for that Georgia defense for a couple of years after transferring from West Virginia. And now he steps in. His athletic testing was pretty good, right?
Yes, I can pull it up, but it was,
Yeah.
I think, an H
Yeah.
something.
So still in the green, which is great for a secondary player. But now you're able to get a bit more creative back there with Winfield and Whitehead. You don't need to kind of force them to move around, and it should be fun to watch them shuffle around and see what they can do with those packages.
So he was a 7.43. The thing that really dinged him was his height. 5'10", got a 1.4 on Raz.
Yeah. I don't care. Winfield's tiny.
Sure. Yeah, that's one of those things in this position I don't really care about. I wish the shuttle was a little better. It was 4.8, which is, very in the middle. But everything else is green and high yellow. But I agree. I think one, highly intelligent, playmaker, 4 interceptions last year. And the thing about a nickel is you have to be not only great in coverage, but you have to be great against the run. And in Todd Bowles, you have to be a really good blitzer.
Yep.
He led Georgia's defense with 70 tackles.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, this guy is
nickel.
Like, if you could draw up Todd Bowles nickel, it's Tyke Smith.
It really is. He's a perfect fit for Todd Bowles and what he wants to do. Just his aggressive, playmaking ability as a tackler in the blitz. His coverage skills are very good. He can jump routes, just super cerebral. If there's a guy outside of Mikey Sanderstill, who was the guy I really liked for them in the second round if he had been there, Tyke Smith is very similar in terms of his play.
Yeah, 100%. That's a really, really good call there. We know they like Sanderstill, but obviously he got drafted. So Tyke Smith, though, not a bad consolation prize. In terms of where I see him in this defense, again, I think this is a starting nickel on day one, truthfully.
Absolutely. And I really like the depth and versatility it gives you with Chris Isian moving to a reserve role, but he's a guy who can do everything now. He can play special teams. He can play the nickel. He can play safety. He can, both safety spots. He's going to train as a free safety, but he's really, I think, more of a strong safety.
Yeah.
He's just going to be that ultimate utility guy who gives you so many options. So that you talk about the depth of this defense, and it was lacking a little bit last year. Merriweather undrafted, Isian undrafted. Didn't know what we were getting with McCollum as a third corner. Going into this year, I feel much, much better about the depth of this secondary.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I like what Isian did last year, but it was clear that there was an upgrade that needed to be made, and now, like you said, you're able to put Isian back to that rotational reserve role. And this is not like us saying that we think the Bucs don't like Isian. I mean, he was a UDFA who started for this team for a good chunk of the year. They like Isian a lot. But upgrades are upgrades, and Tyke Smith's going to, I think, take a load off this secondary in terms of how Todd Bowles can shuffle them around and scheme some stuff up.
Just random thought. I'm looking at our podcast Twitter account,
Yeah.
and I haven't updated it in forever, but in the bio, it is the original Chris Isian fan podcast. So we are big on Chris Isian here. We were in on him early. That's not to say we can't have Tyke Smith come in and give this team an upgrade.
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, we see it the same way. Plug and play starter, day one impact, and the Bucs are really feeling with between the edge room and the secondary now. A lot of depth on this defense.
Yeah, this defense is looking much, much more ready than it was last year, where you're like, okay, if this guy gets hurt, we're screwed. Luckily, that's a bit changed now.
Still a few places where I think they could add some depth on the defensive line. I'd love to see them go out and add a guy like Calais Campbell. Linebacker, I wish they had one more dude in that room. But
and I forgot to mention Tevier Thomas. That's a nickel as well. So
yes, that's another one.
The ad they had this in the free agency. So there's just a lot of flexibility in this secondary right now.
Yeah, which with Todd Bowles, there is no one
Very
better
good.
at managing a secondary than him.
Yep.
And developing for that matter.
True. Now,
all right. Second, third round pick.
Man, this is the one where I was like, oh God, we are cooking. Like Jason Light is really in his bag right now. They picked a Creamsicle Chronicles favorite, Jalen McMillan, wide receiver out of Washington. My favorite pick of the draft. This was a slam dunk home run selection. He might not see like as many snaps as we would hope in his first year, but this is very clearly someone that they are looking to step into that Chris Godwin role and completely take over for it eventually, I think. This is someone that I think can do it. I don't think he's as big and maybe can't get the rack at times, but in terms of reliability, like smart plays, finding the soft spot in zone coverage, getting you the yards you need, and then not risking it for many more if it's not necessary. Jalen McMillan is going to eat in this offense.
Did you by chance happen to hear the episode I put out last week while you were out?
Bits and pieces.
So I went a little crazy last week, and I went as far as to say that 3 years from now, Jalen McMillan could flirt with being a top 10 receiver in the NFL.
I think that is crazy.
I know. I after the podcast, I'm like, was that too much? But
yeah.
But I really do feel like he can, because one, we've seen the impact the slot can make in this Sean McVay offense. We've seen it, with the Packers. We've seen it with the Rams, obviously, in Cooper Kupp and now Puka Nacua. And if he's not a top 10 guy, he's definitely going to be the Bucs' number one receiver 3 years from now.
I think he's going to be a very, very good number 2. Because I do think that play strength limits him to be a number 1. That's all.
I mean, how strong do you have to be a slot receiver? I mean, it's not like nickel where you have to step up against the run. I mean, you're off the line. True. You don't have to fight through contact as much.
Right. My thing, though, is like, I don't know. I love Jalen McMillan. This is a great pick. I think he's a very good number 2 because I don't know how much he's going to be able to, with 3 years down the line, right?
Yep, 3 years from now. I'm not saying as a rookie. Right. There's a lot of mouths to feed. Even 2 years from now, Mike Evans is still probably that dude.
3 years from now, I don't know how reliably you can go back to the slot over and over again to get a guy that many touches in a game to be a number 1. I think if you want to, obviously there's like AJ Brown, there's the exceptions, but they're big, right? They can take those hits over the middle of the field. I think you got to be a bit more careful with Jalen McMillan. That's all. Even Chris Godwin's bigger, I think if you want to like really take over, you need to be able to withstand the physicality of the game.
And I agree. I mean, those guys I listed, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra St. Brown,
right.
All those star slot receivers, they are thick.
Yeah.
But, I mean, McMillan's not small. 6'1", almost 200. I think he's 197. Pack a few pounds on. He's, comfortably in the 200s.
My thing, it's less so the size and more so like his ability to handle physicality.
Sure.
Like his play strength is was a concern for me pre-draft. That's all. But I think very, very good number 2. Awesome slot receiver is his future.
Yeah, I think he's going to be an absolute weapon for the Bucs.
Yeah.
Just a guy who can catch 100 balls a year down the line, constantly moving the chains. He's going to be the straw that stirs the drink. He's going to be our Jason Kidd.
Yep, I'm with you. I don't know what his touchdown numbers will look like, but like you said, move the chains, a clutch catch. You can do some funky little stuff, maybe like flare him out, get him in space, see what he can do with the ball in his hands. But this is a awesome pick. Year 1, it's kind of tough to see a huge impact for him in year 1. I think he's gonna have one, but you got Mike Evans, you got Chris Godwin, who they've already said they want to stick back in the slot, and you got Trey Palmer, the speed guy. So I think likely what you'll see him doing the most is if Trey Palmer comes out, they slide Godwin back to the outside for some snaps, and they put McMillan in for the slot on that snap, on that sub package. So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I know they do want to move Godwin back to the slot, and I think they will. I think they're going to follow through with that.
Yep.
But at the same time, Godwin's almost 30. He's turning 29 this year.
Yeah.
Even as a guy who does have that thick build, no one questions Chris Godwin's toughness. You want to take a little bit of that contact off of him. So I think moving him outside now and again, giving McMillan some of those slot reps, I think that's going to be good for Chris Godwin.
I'm with you. I think that is what it's going to be, is you're going to move Godwin outside on some snaps, and McMillan's going to come into the slot for sure.
And I think he's just going to be electric there.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
An absolute slot machine type of guy.
Yeah, so if you aren't familiar with Jalen McMillan, get familiar because he's very good. This was an awesome pick. This was my favorite pick of the whole draft.
Mine too. The last 2 days I went back and I rewatched the national championship game. Mikey Sanderstill versus Jalen McMillan.
Yeah.
That is just beautiful football.
Good stuff. Some good stuff.
Talk about a game within the game.
I mean, we were talking about it with Alex. I think, did all 3 of us make this pick?
I don't think Alex did.
Okay. He picked a Husky. He picked Braylon Trice. That was the Husky he picked in this pick. But we both made the pick. We both love it. Alex gave us some really good insight on McMillan and, specifically his concerns last year. And just, it was like, hey, go check out the year before because he can do it. So I'm so excited to see him work in this offense.
Yeah, and then if one missed it, go back 2 weeks ago, catch our pre-draft episode with Alex Katzen from Huskies Wire. So he covers Washington Huskies football. So no one has more insight to this type of player than him.
Yep.
All right. So I think all 4 of these guys, absolute home run picks. It was need plus value. Got them both.
Yep. Going into the 4th round, this one was a surprise to me. They took Bucky Irving, a running back out of Oregon. I said it yesterday on the Pure Report podcast. I like the player, so I can't hate the pick a ton, but this was definitely not the mold of running back I expected the Bucs to target.
Yeah, I mean, my motto all offseason has been get yourself a version of the Gus Bus. A guy who is 5'11", 230, can get you the tough physical yards when the box is stacked.
Yep.
This ain't it.
Definitely not. This is more of like all right, we need a couple yards on 3rd down. We're going to flare you out and see how you do with the ball after you catch it. Now, what that does tell me maybe is that you could see it every now and then last year, but maybe they know they needed a running back. Maybe they are putting more of the issues in the running game with the offensive line.
And I would agree with that. I do think that is more the issue than Rachaad White. I don't think it's even close.
Yeah, and you can see Rachaad White. He's getting better at just putting his head down and running straight. when he needs to, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, that was not his game at Arizona State, and it's really not his game in the pros. But if he thinks he can do it and the Bucs need him to, he's gonna do it. This is, I guess, just a guy to take some carries away from him and be that spell when he needs a break, rather than be a compliment to him.
Yeah, and Jason Light again has the worst poker face out of any GM in the NFL. But Luke Easterling put out this quote from Jason Light, so I guess we really should have known. He said, "We love Rachaad White. How much better would it be if we had another Rachaad White?" And this guy is very much the same mold. You know, he's 5'9", 190, so he's not small, but he's not big.
Right.
And he can catch it. He has good vision. He has good feet. The tape is really, really good, even though the athletic testing wasn't.
Right.
He's just not what I was expecting.
Yeah, definitely not. I thought they would go after a big guy, but I mean, you're right. Jason Light he literally tells people what they're gonna do, but no one picks up on it, so it's kind of masked, but at the same time, it's not. But it's funny. But
he's really using like the fact that the Bucs are very overlooked to full advantage.
Oh yeah,
like he could just come out in the combine. I'm drafting Graham Barton. That's who we're getting, and everyone be like, "Yeah, okay, Jason."
Sure, man. Yeah, I don't believe you. Yeah, but Bucky, like I said, I like the player, so I can't hate the pick too much. I just think it was a bit not what we were expecting. So
yeah, I had to go back and watch him because I didn't expect this type of running back.
Yeah,
but again, the tape is very good. His athletic testing was very bad, but this is always a trust the tape podcast, and I think,
of course,
there's no more position where that applies than running back. I think it's so easy to see if a guy can play or if he can't, and Bucky Irving can play.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, now in terms of his role, I just think he's RB2.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty set.
Yeah, I mean, he does everything Rachaad White does, so it's really going to be when they want to give Rachaad a break. Maybe they just want to do a different look. Maybe two running backs. I could throw it to Rachaad, or I could throw it to Bucky, or I'm throwing it to Mike Evans. You don't even know what I'm doing. So,
triple
I mean,
option.
Yeah. That actually sounds kind of fun.
No.
Fake the dive to Rachaad. Fake the pitch to Bucky. Baker keeps it. There he goes. He can scoot. But no, I think anything they want Rachaad to do, Bucky can do. So I don't think there's going to be any change in approach. It's just going to be kind of like the edge rushers. It's going to be wave after wave, and Chase Edmonds is kind of the same mold too. So it's going to be wave after wave after wave.
Yeah, I think this just shoves Sean Tucker to the practice squad. So
R.I.P. my Sean Tucker dreams.
Yeah, it's tough, but it's okay. Hopefully he can develop a bit on the practice squad, maybe be that RB3 in a couple of years. But
I still believe.
Yeah, of course. You believe until you can't. But yeah, so that was the last pick. I was kind of shocked that the Bucs didn't move back up in between this pick and their 6th. I don't know the last time we've seen Jason Light just sit like that.
Especially, there was a player falling in the draft, and
his name was Christian Mahogany.
Yes, and he is a very good player. I thought he was going to go in the 2nd, early 3rd round, but
the injuries must have just been really rough.
Well, I was listening to Scott Reynolds on the Pewter Report podcast last week.
Okay, yeah.
Apparently, the interviews weren't great.
Gotcha.
They felt he wasn't a good culture fit. He wasn't a good locker room fit.
Gotcha.
And they didn't give me a lot of details there, but apparently it was a personality issue.
I could see this being like a Trey Smith thing, though, with the Chiefs. Because he went where? Baltimore?
Kansas City.
He went to Kansas City?
Trey Smith?
Mahogany.
Oh, he went to Detroit.
Detroit likes those weirdos, like I think this guy can easily be a starting guard there.
Their general manager openly came out and called him a dirtbag. Like he's got some dirtbag in him.
Yeah, that's like what they want.
Yeah. I guess I kind of want that in my offensive lineman too, but I guess it just depends on how much. Like
I
you
like
know.
what Graham Barton said personally. He's like, no, I'm nice, but like on the field, it's just how you got to play. I like that. I'd prefer that, but
I don't know. I like that nasty approach where it's like, "Hey, I'm Graham Barton. Nice to meet you, Christian." And he just looks up, "F you. Talk to me
no,
again,
no,
I'll
no, no,
kill
no.
you."
But it's not like that. It's not like that. On the field, he's mean, but like it's not like it's because he's actually mean.
No, I kind of want. I kind of like the idea of Christian Mahogany just
You like
being
the
mean.
Warren Sapp.
Yeah, like just if you look at him wrong, he's gonna bum rush you in your own huddle.
Sure, sure. I guess maybe for D line, but I don't know. But
No,
either way,
it really it depends on how to the degree because you don't want
yeah, of course. You don't
who
want him to
was
be terrible.
who was that guy who played for Buffalo and
Richie Incognito.
yes, you don't want
Yeah,
Richie Incognito.
that guy sucked.
Yeah, he was not a good dude.
Wasn't he
Uh,
like racist?
yeah, there were some racial things and there
Yeah,
were some hazing things and yeah,
that's
it
tough.
wasn't good. So you don't want that, but I
Definitely
don't
don't.
mind a little dirtbag.
No, that's fine. But um, instead, they drafted maybe not a dirtbag off the field, but definitely a mean run blocker in Elijah Klein in the 6th round. Where'd he go to school again? I always forget.
UTEP.
UTEP, yeah, University of Texas El Paso, the Miners, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe that's correct.
I had no clue who this guy was. Full transparency, I had no idea. So I immediately, do a Twitter search, and then lo and behold, the offensive line guru Brandon Thorne had talked about him before, and was like, "Yeah, this guy is a nasty run blocker." And then I did a little bit more digging. He's not going to offer anything in terms of athleticism or pass pro, but his run blocking is fantastic. That's pretty much what I gathered.
You know who else really liked him?
Who?
Duke Merriweather.
I was gonna say, was it Duke?
Yeah. So Brandon Thorne, Duke Merriweather, they are the two biggest authorities on offensive line play in the Twitter sphere. And, obviously Duke runs camps. A lot of draft prospects went down to Texas, I believe, and they worked with Duke Merriweather. And, he does this all the time. He is an offensive line guru. He really liked Elijah Klein. He worked with him. He said he's a really under the radar prospect. He didn't get invited to a lot of the the postseason bowls or, a lot of the things that highlight you in the draft process. And he felt like he was really overlooked and really slept on. And a lot of teams just weren't doing enough homework on him.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think this is guys just a depth piece, but it's very clear that they're like, yeah, we're fixing this run offense, this rushing attack. If you need a yard, bring in a jumbo package, send in Elijah Klein, and just push the pile.
Yeah, because he's not a small dude. I mean,
No.
6'3", 306. I mean, he looks bigger than that.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised at all if he trimmed down for the combine because he is just he kind of has an Jackson Powers Johnson build where he's almost kind of like square build.
Yeah. It's like that shorter but stocky, strong,
very stout,
like a lumberjack. But that's like I said, I don't know a ton about the guy, but for a 6th round pick, you're looking for things that can impact your team in a certain way, and the Bucs were like, yeah, let's get a run blocker. So I'm for it.
Yeah, I got a chance to go back and watch some of him in college. I think he played the game I watched was like Louisiana Tech. Surprisingly light on his feet for a stout looking dude.
Sure.
He's good on the poles. He gets out into space fairly well. He's not as clunky as you might expect when you look at him. So I think he's really going to fit what the Bucs do and want to do really well. And I think he even said as much in his press conference.
Yeah.
He loves doing zone stuff. Inside zone, outside zone. That's what he wants to do. That's what he enjoys. He wants to get out in space and hit someone.
Perfect. I think this might affect someone that our next pick will also affect.
I think this pick could affect a lot. I mean, do you feel like Elijah Klein can be in the mix for that starting guard spot on the left side? I mean, Ben Bredesen, Apetta.
My gut tells me no.
I think so too. I'm just not overly impressed with the options there.
No, I get you.
I think Klein is really in a perfect world a depth piece.
Yeah.
but I would say the same thing about the other guys there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's the left guard position is still a need, I think, in the long run. But I think for now, I think you have a decent mix of guys. Maybe Hainsey just slides there, right? Like he's starting experience in the NFL.
Mhm.
Opeta has if I were to guess, it's between Hainsey, Opeta, and Bredesen. And I think Klein is just going to be a backup. Can that change? Sure. Could I be wrong? Sure. But right now, that's just what my gut's telling me.
And I would agree with that, but this is going to be an interesting camp battle to watch because I really do think it's going to be a battle, and they're going to give it to the best guy, whoever it is,
Yep.
because none of them are proven. None of
Right.
them really have a leg up in terms of the new guys. So the only one who really has experience with this team is Robert Hainsey.
Yep. So are we cool? Are you cool to move on to the next pick? Because I'm gonna
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
okay, cool. I was more so thinking that this pick might affect Keeft.
Yes. I think there is a very clear pathway for this pick.
I mean Elijah Klein and this pick both.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'll explain. So in their seventh round pick, the Bucs drafted Devin Culp, the tight end from Washington, who they interviewed at the combine and clearly liked. Ran a 4.47, freak athlete, is a bit smaller, but he's really fast, so it'll be okay. Another Washington Husky on the roster. So what I'm kind of referring to is what is Keeft's best trait?
Block.
His blocking. In the pass game, he really offers nothing.
Just absolutely nothing.
Yeah. You bring in a tight end who doesn't offer anything in the blocking game, but offers a lot in the passing game, as well as a tight end or a offensive guard who is best heralded for his run blocking. Why not just put in Klein in those situations you would put Kieft in?
I think it's an interesting thought.
Obviously, you have the option for Kieft to be a receiving threat, right? So it's more than just get in there and block. Like we need you to go out for a pass, but I feel like with Culp and Otten, you can work some stuff out. Like you don't need to have a tight end just for blocking who drops passes, you know? I like Keeft, what he was able to do as a blocker, but if you draft a guy who's better at blocking, just put him in those jumbo packages.
So I think if you're going to put him on the line of scrimmage, I think that can work.
Yeah.
I don't think you want him running any true fullback sets because there is a big difference in speed there. And I just don't know if Klein is nimble enough because Kieft ran a 4.98, so basically a 5.
That's true.
On the 40, and Klein ran a 5.6.
And this is just like a random little thought I had. I do think Keeft still be fine. I think they're going to take 3 tight ends, and he'll be okay. But that was just a random thought I had.
But I like the thought because, by all accounts, this new version of the Bucs offense, moving from Dave Canales to Liam Cohen, it is going to be more 11 personnel, which means less tight ends on the field, less fullback snaps. So Keeft's role, regardless of how good he is at that role, it's diminished.
Yeah.
So they're probably going to be wanting a guy who's more of a weapon in that backup tight end role. And that's not Keeft. And frankly, it's not really Payne Durham either. He's just a jump ball, big body type. Culp really fits that mold.
Devin Culp.
That's right. So,
fast.
Yeah. And I think I have to go back. I don't think he's great with like the contested catches, but I think he's got good hands.
Yeah, I mean, he's 238, so he's definitely light on the tight end side. So going up against those linebackers and those bigger safeties could be a challenge for him. But, I mean, if you're able to get a dynamic receiving threat in the 7th round, a potential one, I should say, with great athleticism for his position, you really can't say no. And again, I think this was another perfect 10 on the Raz for the Bucs this draft. Am I correct?
I don't know.
I think, let me look it up, because I think he might have been, Graham Barton's 10 out of 10 at center. He's 9.99 everywhere else on the line. but
So
he'll play.
Culp was a 8.4 or
Oh, I was wrong.
8.14.
Okay, someone tested crazy this year at tight end.
That
I
was
can't
Theo
remember who.
Johnson.
It was. Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Culp was he's all greens in the 40. His
And then the
vert was really
weight.
good. It's just height and weight.
Yeah.
Height
Unmeasurable.
is 2.6, weight is 0.58,
So that's just
230
basically saying he's a
pounds.
glorified wide receiver.
He's really more like Mike Evans than anything. Yeah.
Yeah, closer to that than a tight end, I'd say, because he offers nothing in blocking.
6'3", 230, and ran a 4.47. What did Mike Evans run?
He ran like a 4.54, I want to say.
So yeah, Mike Evans, 6'4", 230, ran a 4.53. So really, in terms of athletic profile, he's really more Mike Evans than a traditional tight end.
Which is really funny to think about, but and maybe they just throw him at wide receiver,
Oh yeah, I think they'll spread him out a lot. I think that's really where he's gonna.
Yeah, maybe they want a bigger body receiver instead of just another tight end, and O'Keefe and Payne Durham are fine.
If you're not going to have a power run game to get you those touchdowns, you got to have someone who can go up and get the ball in the red zone.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
luckily, the Bucs have a couple guys with Mike and Cade and
Payne
now
Durham.
Culp and Payne Durham, so they got options in terms of pass catching big men.
Yeah, it's exciting for sure, but yeah, it's a pretty crowded tight end room too. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's gonna be him and Payne Durham battling it out for that third spot.
Yeah, and I could even see him taking the second spot and O'Keefe just being special teams and occasionally blocking.
And maybe they use him as a wide receiver, like we said, and they roll in with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan, Trey Palmer, and Devin Culp. And am I forgetting anyone?
We've got Devin Tompkins,
Raheem
Jarrett.
Maybe one of them. Exactly. Maybe they just overhaul at receiver instead.
When I think of tight ends of this mold, undersized in terms of their size, but just profile as a really good pass catcher.
Yeah.
I always think of former Falcon, actually, Algie Crumpler. Do you remember him?
No.
Way before your time.
What year was he from?
Okay, let me check his combine. What year did he come out? So he came out. What year is this? Don't know Algie Crumpler. Algernon Crumpler?
No way. This is a real person.
This is a real person, and he was really fun to watch, actually. He was 2000, so 2001 to 2010.
I was 1 when this guy came into the professional football league, the National Football League. I was 1.
6'2". He was bigger in terms of his weight, but
he was drafted in 2000?
2001 was his rookie year.
Okay, yeah, so I was 1.
Well, you missed the horror show of Algernon Crumpler. Algie.
Clearly. Man,
no, he had a couple of 700-yard receiving season and 800-yard receiving season. He was a good player.
There you go. Devin Culp, the comp, Algernon Crumpler.
That's right. The real ones know.
That's really funny. Yeah, that's just someone I've never. Yeah, that you could have just made that up, and I would have been like, yeah, sure, I believe you. 2000, yeah.
You need to go back and watch his highlight. Algie was fun. Even as a Falcon, he just crushed the Bucs for a while.
Well,
but that was when the Bucs were good, so it was easy to appreciate because he wasn't ruining our season.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, that's the draft class, everybody. I mean, I think. Did you give a grade on yours, JT?
I don't know if I did in the episode last week, but I wrote an article. I gave it a B+.
Yeah, B+. I gave it an A. I really don't think there's much they could have done better, if I'm being honest. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
B+ was my own personal thing because I was a little lower on Graham Barton.
Yeah, I was definitely higher on Graham Barton than you, and in terms of where these players sat on their board, or just how the board fell in comparison to the positions of need, and then how they attacked it. I think it couldn't have really gone much better. You know what? I will give it an A- though, because one, I did have one player above Barton on that list, and then two, Bucky Irving still confuses me. So A-, but
Yeah, it was
still really good.
one of the better drafts around the league, definitely.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely far and away the best in the NFC South.
I would 100% agree with that. It's not a high bar to pass, in all fairness, but
Oh, Michael Penix, number 8 overall, not good.
not great, not great, not great. But
Like, even if I thought Michael Penix was going to be a good pro, which I don't,
yeah.
8th overall. I mean,
When
what's
you
your
have
return on
Kirk Cousins.
investment there?
Yeah, 5 years down the line.
Like, you're trying to win a division right now with a 36-year-old quarterback.
Yep.
What are you doing?
Yep. It's a rough one, that's for sure. But
you hate to see it.
That's the draft class. That's going to do it for this episode of the Creamsicle Chronicles podcast. We're going into slow season. Just a heads up. We're going to be doing a lot of next. When is the schedule released, JT?
I think it's this coming Thursday. So next week at this time, we can talk about the schedule release. Next weekend, I think, is rookie minicamp. So the week after that, we can kind of discuss the rookies.
Perfect.
So we got a little bit of content on the horizon as we go into the dead months of the long off season.
Yeah, but that's not to say we're not going to be still making podcasts. We're still going to do this. It might be a bit just not directly Bucs content. Might be stuff from the past, or some other creative stuff that we're going to work in. But
I can see the episodes. If you were to make a dodgeball team of all-time Buccaneers, who would you pick?
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be tough on some of them to stretch to our typical hour, I think, but we'll make it work. We'll make it work, that's for sure. But next week we'll be back with the schedule release and what we think the Bucs could do this next year. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate the support, and we'll see you in the next one. And as always, go Bucs.
Go Bucs.